I want to thank everybody for joining us for our town hall meeting. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes here, maybe about a minute. We've got about half of the people logged in who registered, so I just want to give everybody a chance to get on before we get started. So please hold tight. We'll be back with you shortly. Hello, and thank you for tuning in for the first installment of our virtual town hall series. This one is Resources for Job Seekers. I'm Ty Stockton. I'm the Department of Workforce Services Communications Manager. I'm just here to introduce all the people who have the answers for you. So before we begin, I'd like to let you know that we're recording this session and we will have it available as soon as possible after it's over in case you need to go back and watch it again. We'll also have time at the end of the session for you to ask questions. If you want to ask a question, please use the Q&A feature. It's down at the bottom of the screen. You might have to hover your mouse over the bottom of the screen, and then a little bar will pop up at the bottom, and it's the Q&A button. You poke that button, and you can type your question into the little box that comes up. It'll come to us, and we'll get it to the people who need to answer it, and then we'll try to answer that. We may not have time to get to all of the questions during the live session, but we're going to try to record all those questions, type them up, add the answers, and we'll send that Q&A back to you on the email that you provided when you registered. We'll also post those on our website. We'll get to as many of those questions as we can. And when we do post a recording of this session, like I said, we'll post a transcript of those questions that were asked and the answers to those questions. And you can find those, you'll be able to find those on our website. If you go to our main website at wyomingworkforce.org and then click on one of those banners, it'll take you to the resources page. And we'll have the recording of this session, the questions and answers, and the PowerPoints that you're about to see all up on that resources page. I'm sorry. This Zoom thing is kind of new to me, so bear with me as I fumble through it. Also, like I said, we're also going to send those PowerPoints, the questions and answers, and we're going to send those to you to the email that you provided during the registration. And today we've got representatives from our unemployment insurance division on hand to give you information and answer your questions about the options available to you during this pandemic, including information about the additional aid made possible by the CARES Act and other federal legislation. To get us started, we have Christina West, who's our Employment and Training Deputy Administrator for Department of Workforce Services. She's here to talk to you about the workforce centers in your area and the help you can get from those centers. So Christina.
Thanks, Ty. Thanks for having me today and allowing me to share a little bit more information about the workforce centers. I know we have limited time, so we'll keep our presentation short so that you can get some information from the UI staff as well. However, as we go through this, we will be asking or allowing you to ask questions at the end. So please save your questions for then. And always remember that if you have more questions, please call one of your local workforce centers. So next slide, Ty. How can we—
Apologize, sorry, hang on a second. Chris, okay. I think I got the wrong screen. Here, is that better?
That is my presentation. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Ty. So our goal at the local workforce centers is it's really to help you. It's to help the U.S. or Wyoming citizens, and we really take the approach of an individualized approach. It's based on your needs. It's based on your goals. It's definitely not a one size fits all. So as you can see on the slide, what's our focus? It's really to help you maintain employment or obtain employment. It's about getting a job and keeping a job. Next slide. This slide just really talks about some of those basic job seeker services that we can provide. Again, keep in mind that all the services that we do provide are offered at no cost. The first item there talks about registering on Wyoming at Work. Wyoming at Work is our labor exchange tool. It's a website. It's very similar to some of the things you've heard, Indeed, Career Builder, those types of things. And it's a tool that's used by job seekers and employers, and we will spend some time talking about it today. Other things you see on the list, at the workforce centers, we can help with resume creation. We know that your resume is what sells you. It's your marketing tool. So we have professionals that can help you create a professional resume, as well as help you change that resume with the different positions that you apply for. We can also help with the completion of job applications, whether that's an online application or a paper application. And we also help with interview preparation to include a mock interview, where we actually have a panel of folks that will sit with you, interview you, and provide you feedback. Now, how these tools are delivered or how these services are delivered are very different based on your needs and based on the center. So some centers may have more of a workforce or workshop presentation, where some other centers might do all of those services more one-on-one. The resource rooms, that is another tool that we offer. The resource rooms are open when the workforce centers are open. So currently Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And in the resource rooms, you have access to the internet, where you can do all your job searching, apply for unemployment insurance and such. We do have a phone where you can get on and call the UI office. We can scan, copy, fax. We have resume paper, all of those basic things to help you apply for jobs. Next slide. At the workforce centers, we provide services to veterans from all services, and that's on a priority of service basis. Every staff member workforce specialist is trained. However, we also do have special folks that were veterans or are veterans that are also just trained in a little bit more depth, and they really focus on veteran resources within the Department of Workforce Services, as well as community services and programs. Next slide. Also in the workforce centers, or in a majority of our workforce centers, we have the vocational rehabilitation offices. So they're co-located in the majority of our buildings. Vocational rehabilitation, they provide services to individuals, and the services are really about gaining employment, gaining independent living for those individuals with disabilities. VR really takes the approach similar to what we do in the workforce centers, that all their services are individualized, that they look at the person's strengths, abilities, interests when creating plans or providing services. Next slide. So I really want to dive in, and I know that I could spend a lot of time talking about Wyoming at Work, but we're just going to touch base on a few of the most important things. Keep in mind, this is all offered at no cost, and it is something that you can do from the comfort of your own home. Wyoming at Work is a tool that's used by you and I as job seekers, and it's also used by employers. So we'll go ahead and do the next slide. This slide really just kind of gives you a summary of all the great things I'm going to talk about that's within Wyoming at Work. I really would like to focus on the bottom check mark, the online learning sources. It doesn't have its own page, so I just want to focus on it first. So within Wyoming at Work, there are a lot of tools to help you get a job and maintain that position. The online resources, that's just a little bonus, a little extra. And there are several different types of training classes available through our online learning resources. You can take classes on Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You can take classes on soft skills, how to improve my customer service. There are financial literacy classes out there. That's just to mention a few. So if during this time you think, I really want to strengthen these skills, but I can't afford to go pay for a class, or there's really not a lot of classes going on right now, these are things that you could do from the comfort of your own home. Or it could be that your current employer says, hey, during this time, I really would like you to improve on this skill. Could you take some classes? Definitely explore Wyoming at Work and look and see if those classes would be available. It's something that's free and you could track your progress. Next slide. This slide just shows you what Wyoming at Work looks like. So when you go to the internet, you type in wyomingatwork.com. This would be the slide or the screen that you would be looking at. At the top right-hand corner, that's where you would enter your username and your password if you're registered. If you're not registered, you see in white there, you would click on that and register. If you forget your username and password, if it's been a while since you've signed in, you can click here and get that information. You're also going to know at the bottom of the screen it says search for a job. You can search directly here for a job and not be registered. However, when you get into the system, it won't give you all the details about the job if you enter the system without logging in. So it won't give you all the how to apply. So we definitely recommend that you register and get a username and password. Next slide. One thing that you'll hear me say about Wyoming at Work is the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. So the more information or the more time you take setting up your account, the more the system will work for you. So our system is a job matching system. If you take a few minutes and you enter your skills in Wyoming at Work, then the system will match you to jobs that are available. So if you enter 10 skills and this job says, I need these 10 skills, you'll be matched to that position, and that position will show as a great opportunity for you. That's something that you can do on your own, and you can adjust your matches. You can match 100% to skills. You can match 50% of your skills. The cool thing is this site is also used by employers, and it's also used by the Workforce Center staff. So employers can come in and say, I'm looking for someone that has the following 10 skills. And if you have those following 10 skills, your information will pop for them to look at your resume and see if you'd be a good fit. Next slide, please. What else does the system do? Well, we have a resume builder function in our system. How does it work? Next slide, please. The resume builder in our system allows you to create a resume template. It allows you to enter the jobs, your work history, your education, your skills. However, the resume does not print in something too pretty, but it is a great option for you to use to keep all of your information that you need to have in one central location. So you can use that resume builder function. However, we also can upload numerous resumes, and that's something that we would recommend, that you upload your professional resume so that when employers see your resume, they see that you have just that template that has all your basics, but you also have your professional resumes. All right, next slide, please. Wyoming at Work is also the job searching tool. So how does it work? Basically, you can job search. You can look at all the job postings, or you could narrow your search by keywords. You could narrow the search by saying, I want to look at only CNA positions. You could narrow the search by location. You could say, I only want to search for things in Cheyenne. I only want to search for things in Sweetwater County. You can search by distance and so on and so forth. The employers add their jobs directly into Wyoming at Work, and the Workforce Center staff can also add jobs directly into Wyoming at Work. But we also have a very cool function, and that's listed at the bottom, and that's called Spider Software. Every night, Wyoming at Work goes out and pulls jobs from other locations and puts those jobs in Wyoming at Work. So it really makes it a one-stop system for you. You don't have to go out and check Wyoming at Work, and then you don't have to go out and check Indeed. Everything will be in one central location for convenience. Next slide, please. Virtual Recruiter, this is basically where the system will allow you to set up job alerts. Next slide. A job alert just makes your job easier. We have tons of jobs that are being posted. You may not have the time to go through every job to find the job that fits you. You can set a job alert or a virtual recruiter up, and you can have multiple virtual recruiters where you can say, I only want to look at CNA positions. You put in a specific keyword, and then you tell the system how frequently you want to get information about these types of jobs. Daily, weekly, monthly. You tell the system also where to send that information, whether it's emailing you the information, texting you the information, or sending you the information in your message center in Wyoming at Work. Again, it just speeds up the process. Next slide, please. So all of those services I just talked about, those really have to do with things that are offered in the Workforce Center and things very specific to our labor exchange Wyoming at Work system. I would like to talk to you about another service that we offer at the Workforce Centers, and that's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or the WIOA program. This is a program that is federally funded, and it's mandated, it has mandated guidelines, eligibility guidelines. Really, what is the ACT, or what is WIOA? It really provides opportunities to help adults, youth, and those that have been dislocated, whether that's from COVID or something else, to be successful in finding a career pathway. It's to help you maintain employment, and it's also to help you to obtain a new skill, to receive training, to be successful in a self-sustainable, high-growth position. So let's talk about what that really means in relation to services to you. So next slide. So again, it's really important that we reiterate that the services, one, are based on your needs, what you're bringing to the table that you need, what your goals are, and we first have to make sure that we can find you eligible. So we'll talk about that here briefly. So some of the services we provide would just be basic assessments, skills, aptitudes, abilities, interests. We really develop a plan. We really make sure you have all the tools necessary to achieve those goals and objectives. Along the way, we provide career counseling and guidance, so you have someone in your corner cheering you on. If there are little hiccups or bumps in the road, you have someone there to kind of help look and see, okay, what are some other services we could do to overcome some of those bumps. We also help with support services if there is a need. Support services are a kind of a big category. So if someone comes in and they just need tools, they just need clothes or uniform, and that's their barrier to being successful in this employment, that's something we could assist with. In order to receive a support service, you have to be engaged in an activity. So we have to show that you're working on some career services, you're looking for work, or you're in training. The very last bullet point talks about training. It could be that during this time you realize, oh man, I was working and I just wasn't making a self-sustainable wage, and I need to look at something that's going to offer me more income. And through this time, you decide you want to go back to school, you want to get retrained, you want to get a certificate, a license to make you more marketable. That's something that WIOA could assist with. The training through WIOA is usually short-term in nature, up to a two-year degree. Next slide, please. There are several WIOA programs. Due to the sake of time, we're not going to go through all of them in detail. However, it is important to note that there are eligibility requirements for all of them. So we have the adult program, which is, I'm not going to go into that, but the goal of any of the participants in the adult program is that of employment. The next slide talks about how we have the in-school youth program and the out-of-school youth program. The in-school youth program is anyone that's between the ages of 14 and 21 and is currently in school, whether that be a high school program or in college. The out-of-school youth program is between the ages of 16 and 24, and that person is not currently enrolled in a school program per our definitions. The goal for youth can be that of entering employment or entering post-secondary education. Again, there's eligibility requirements, so please call us if you have any interest. And then we have the dislocated worker program. Next slide, please. Again, we did not want to spend a lot of time getting in the weeds with the eligibility of these programs. However, the dislocated worker program is for someone that has been laid off or terminated due to no fault of their own. So when you look at our current situation with COVID, many employers have had to close. They've had to follow the governor's directions or directives. They've had to reduce hours. And so those folks could more than likely be eligible under the dislocated worker program. This is where, if you are interested, please call the Workforce Center. We could get you in and talk about some of the basic eligibility documents we would have to collect. All of this can be done over the phone as well. And then we could begin looking at services, whether you want to change the field that you're in now, or whether you just need help maintaining the employment that you already have, you could still be eligible for our program. The last slide just talks about or shows you kind of the map. It gives you the website to go to see where the nearest workforce center is to you. And I just want to end that we really are here to help you. We really hope that you do reach out to the workforce centers and call us at this time to see how we can assist you. Thank you, Ty.
Thank you, Christina. As we get ready to move on to the next presenter, I just want to let you know that those questions are coming in. Again, if you want to ask a question, use the Q&A feature down at the bottom of the screen, and we will be recording this session. We'll have a transcript of the questions and the answers and these PowerPoints on our website at wyomingworkforce.org when this is over. And we'll also send the PowerPoints and questions to you at the email address you provided during the registration. And before we get to those questions, though, for the question and answer time, we have a little more information for you. And here to bring it to you are Lori Huseas, who's the UI Benefit Payment Control Supervisor, and Amy Hauk, who's the Federal Program Coordinator for the Department of Workforce Services. They're going to tell you about the assistance available to you both from the state of Wyoming and from the federal government. So Amy and Lori.
All right, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started with our slideshow. This is Amy. I am a Claim Center Supervisor and also the Federal Program Coordinator. And I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Lori about halfway through, and we'll try to cover as many questions as we can going through it, and then I know at the end we'll have a time where we can do Q&As as well. So this is going to be just a basic guide to unemployment and how it works, kind of an overview, and we hope to touch on the most important points that we want to get across and that you have questions about. We know that right now everyone is unemployed. Mostly everyone is unemployed due to COVID, and that has changed a lot of how unemployment works and what is required of you. I am going to be talking about regular unemployment up front for those that are eligible for it, and then Lori will dig into the special programs that we've got for COVID. So let's go ahead and get started. I guess, yeah, there we go. Did your employer temporarily close their business to comply with state guidelines? Wyoming unemployment benefits are available to individuals who are unemployed through no fault of their own. If an employer must shut down their operations and there is no work available, you may be eligible for unemployment benefits if you meet the monetary criteria and the federal weekly eligibility criteria. And again, this is for regular unemployment. We'll get into those other programs. Are you temporarily laid off or have your hours been reduced due to business slowdown or lack of demand? If so, that is when you could file for unemployment. And when we talk about your hours having been reduced, I know there are some businesses that are still open just to a lesser degree. You have to have your hours with the companies you're working for. Those hours have to be less than 35 per calendar week, and you have to be earning less at that job than we would be paying you for your weekly unemployment benefit amount. And that's going to differ with each individual. So that's not straight across the board. It's not cut and dry. If you are working part-time, we need to see if you're truly eligible on an individual basis. If an employer must lay off their employees due to the loss of production caused by the coronavirus, individuals may be eligible for unemployment benefits if they meet the monetary criteria and the federal weekly eligibility criteria. And again, this is for the regular unemployment program. And if you don't meet these requirements, that's when we'll look at those new special programs for COVID. So with regular unemployment, the minimum weekly benefit amount is $36 a week. The maximum is $508 a week, and those benefits can go anywhere between 11 and 26 weeks. And that's all dependent upon your wages that are in our base period. Our base period is, I'm probably jumping around here. The base period is the time frame that we use to look at all of your wages that you earn from your employers to determine your monetary amount. Right now, that happens to be the calendar year of 2019. So we'll look at your wages you earned from everybody during that time frame. To file in the state of Wyoming, you have to have some of your wages in that time frame in the state of Wyoming. If all of your wages are in Colorado, you would be filing with Colorado instead. So if you have wages in Wyoming, you can try and file here. We can add your wages from other states to the Wyoming wages to hopefully give you a higher benefit amount. So if you do file a claim, let us know if you also worked in other states. So in that base period that we're looking at in 2019, you have to have at least $3,800 in total earnings throughout that entire year. We also have to make sure that your highest quarter of wages in that year, that you've got 40% of your wages in the other 3 quarters. We take a calculation of 1.4 times that highest quarter, make sure you have that in the entire year time frame to see that you're eligible. And you don't need to worry about doing that math. We have that on our end. We'll do all of that for you. Our computer makes sure that you qualify. And again, if you do not meet those requirements, for instance, if you were self-employed during that time frame, then that's where these special programs for COVID-19 will come into play that Lori's going to talk about. So once you file an unemployment claim, and you can file that claim online or over the phone, once you have that initial claim set up, there's a lot more that needs to be done for you to actually receive payment. That's only the start of everything. You have to be physically and mentally able to work every single week that you're filing for payments. You need to be registered for work on the Wyoming at Work website, wyomingworkforce.org. You need to have an active resume on wyomingworkforce.org, and you need to be actively seeking work with a minimum of 2 different employers each week. Now again, that's for regular unemployment. If you are job or union attached, we will determine that here in the agency, but if you are, then you do not have to be registered for work or seeking work. However, up front, you need to get that done so that you meet those requirements. You'll get a letter that tells you you need to do so. The most important thing on this slide is your weekly payment filing. You have to file a weekly certification to let us know that you met our requirements before we can pay you for that week. It's almost like turning in a time card to an employer. That's how we make sure that you were able and available and that you were seeking work. That's where you let us know if you did work part-time. You're going to let us know how many hours you worked and how much you earned from your employer so that we can pay you the correct amount. If you don't report those earnings, it could cause an overpayment and you would be required to repay it. So do a really good job of keeping track of how many hours you're working each calendar week for your employer and figure out the amount that they're paying you in gross wages. If you're self-employed, the same rules apply. You need to let us know how many hours you spent doing self-employed activities and how much you're going to receive in net pay for those activities. And you're going to report that when you are physically doing the work. As far as filing your weekly payment, you can file those online or over the IVR automated telephone system. I would recommend online. It's very nice to have a visual in front of you as you're filling out those questions. You can file those any day of the week, any time of day, 24/7, and I would highly recommend, especially if you're using the IVR phone system, that you do so outside of business hours. The traffic won't be as busy and you should be able to get through on that phone outside of business hours because the only individuals calling in will be to file their weekly certification. They won't be calling in to talk to a human. You have 14 days to file that weekly certification or it would be considered late. So immediately after the calendar week is over, turn that in. The calendar week ends on a Saturday. I would recommend that you file that on a Sunday, the following day, as soon as that calendar week is over. All right, I think that's it for that slide. So what does job attached mean? I did mention that earlier. Job attachment is when your employer intends to call you back to work to your regular amount of hours within the next 12 weeks. And if your employer paid 50% of your base period wages and they intend to have you back within that time frame, we can make you job attached. And that simply means you do not have to register for work within those 12 weeks, and you do not have to seek work with other employers in those 12 weeks. Now, if your employer that you're job attached to offers you work, you have to take that. You can't stay on unemployment. If they've got work for you to do, you are available for them and you need to take that work. And I think with that, I will turn it over to Lori and she can talk about all the special programs. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Oh, and Ty, if you can update the slides, let's move on to the CARES Act. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? So, with everything going on, probably not wonderful. So, what we would like to do now is show you what some other possibilities are with the CARES Act. As you can see from what Amy said, regular UI has very strict eligibility requirements. But now, due to the CARES Act, there are some flexibilities to those requirements and some new programs to accommodate. Number one, if you are self-employed, a contract worker, or otherwise not eligible for regular unemployment and are not working due to COVID-19, you may be eligible for Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, PUA. This program is retroactive to January 27, 2020, but the start date is driven by your last date of work. Please monitor WyomingWorkforce.org for updates. This program is not available yet in WYUI. We are working continually trying to get this program into our existing programs so that you can go ahead and file for this assistance. and you want to keep yourself updated in wyomingworkforce.org as to when you can file for this PUA program. Like I say, we're diligently working and pushing as quickly as possible to get that moved into production. Number two, an additional $600 will be added to each weekly payment. You do not have to apply for this separately. This program is in effect from March 29th, 2020 through July 25th, 2020 for eligible weeks. So right now this program is in production. If you are currently filing for unemployment benefits, you are eligible for this extra $600, and these payments are being made currently. Number three, if you have exhausted regular unemployment benefits and need to file for the pandemic extension, that's PEUC, please monitor wyomingworkforce.org for updates. This program is not available yet in WYUI either. Again, we are programming as quickly as possible to get this moved into production. We know everybody is anticipating and needs the funds. We're working hard to get those into production. This program will be provided an additional 13 weeks of benefits. And then the other thing I wanted to note, one other thing that the CARES Act is providing for our claimants is an expanded eligibility for those laid off due to COVID-19. Because they are giving us some flexibilities, if you've been laid off due to COVID-19 and you relay that information to us when you apply for unemployment insurance, you will not have to look for work, and you will not have to register for work. So that's two things that we are being flexible on due to COVID-19. The other thing I want to mention, however, you will be required to report any wages your employer pays you for the week, even if you do not work that week. Due to the integrity of our trust fund, we really need to have you report correctly any earnings. So all earnings for that week must be reported whether you worked or not. So what do I do next? The next slide gives you some information on where you might fall within the different programs. If you're already approved for regular unemployment benefits, you follow the lines there, you go ahead and you apply. If you are not eligible for regular benefits, that would be those that are self-employed, those that do not meet monetary criteria. Again, those will be applying once we get those programs initiated. And again, keep yourself updated on wyomingworkforce.org. If you've exhausted benefits and you need to apply for the additional 13 weeks, monitor wyomingworkforce.org. And we will get those programs into production as soon as possible. Next slide. Ready to apply for benefits, make sure you have these items ready. Your Social Security number, name, mailing address, and phone number of your last employer, the last day you worked. If you worked outside of Wyoming within the last 18 months, the names and dates worked for those employers. You can apply online or by phone. However, call volumes are high right now, and applying online will be faster. Visit wyui.wio.gov. If you need to file for PUA or PEUC, again, please monitor wyomingworkforce.org for updates. Programs are not yet available, but we're working hard on them. If you prefer to call, if your last name begins with A through M, telephone claims can be filed on Monday, Wednesday, or before noon on Friday. If your last name begins with N through Z, telephone claims can be filed on Tuesday, Thursday, or afternoon Friday. Call center phone number is 307-473-3789. Call during your designated times. We're in this together. We're here to help. I know people are struggling, and we're here to, at this point, answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you all for your presentations. Thanks, Amy and Lori. And now we're going to get to the questions that have come in. And I'll be reading those questions, and then the folks who have the answers will chime in with the answers. Once again, let me remind you that we will be sending these questions and answers to you at the email address you provided when you registered. We'll also have them on wyomingworkforce.org, along with the recording of these presentations and the PowerPoints. So we'll get to those questions here. The first question is, do we need to only apply for jobs using the state's job board, or are we allowed to use other online job sites such as Indeed and Monster? So I think that's a question for Christina.
Ty, this is Christina, and if that's relating to the UI, to meet the UI requirements, I'll let Amy respond to that completely. However, it is my understanding that they do not need to use Wyoming at Work solely. They can use other options as well. They just have to be able to, if they're required to do a job search for UI benefits, they are just required to keep track of where and what they're applying for the UI record.
Thank you.
All right, this is Amy, and I agree with what Christina said. For unemployment purposes, you're more than welcome to look for work anywhere through any means. You truly just have to be contacting employers. You can't just look at a job listing. You actually have to reach out and contact those employers, whether that is by phone, by email, et cetera. So yes, you're more than welcome to use Indeed or Monster or USA Jobs.
All right, great. When filing weekly through the unemployment claimant portal to receive benefits, do we need to provide you with a list of employers we send applications or resumes to, or are we only required to notate those who we actually spoke with?
So if you are turning in your weekly certification on our website, we do need that information. We need to know any employer that you contacted during that week. Again, it doesn't matter if you sent something to them through email, through the mail, or if you actually called and spoke to them, or if they spoke to you by calling you back. Include all of that.
Great, thank you. This one, I'm sure a lot of people have this question. Once you apply for your weekly benefits, how long does it take to receive it?
So as far as unemployment goes, it truly depends on each individual, because we have to make sure that we have all of the wages on the claim. If there are federal, military, or out-of-state wages that need to be added, that takes a little bit longer because we have to contact each of those different entities to get the wages. And that is out of our control, but we do request it immediately up front. If there are any problems with your Wyoming wages, we've got to contact our tax department to look into that and try and fix them. But for an individual who has all of the wages on the claim to begin with, you're monetarily eligible, you're going to file for weekly certifications. So there's a potential you could be collecting benefits roughly a week after you set your claim up. However, every single weekly certification you turn in, we review to make sure that there are no issues that would hold up payment that we need to talk to you about, such as not being able and available for work. So it really does depend.
Thank you. Here's a question that says, I've been on state unemployment for a while. Will the state unemployment payment continue until July along with the $600 extra payment, or will I have to reapply for state benefits?
All right, so this one truly depends on where an individual is at. As soon as an unemployment claim is filed, it's there for 52 weeks. There's a maximum of 26 weeks that can be collected in that 52-week time frame. If that has run out and the individual is not eligible for a brand new regular unemployment claim at this time, we would look to see if they are eligible for the pandemic extension. That gives an extra 13 weeks. An individual has to be eligible for unemployment, the pandemic extension, or the pandemic unemployment assistance in order to collect that $600 on top of it. The $600 is an extra payment that is truly almost like a bonus on top of each of those programs, but they have to be eligible for benefits to get that $600.
Thank you. Regarding the pandemic unemployment, does a person have to have the base period wages to be eligible? So if I had $3,000 in wages in 2019 when I was a student, but now my 2020 job's unavailable because the governor closed my place of employment and I've been off work since March. So I think that,
So if
go ahead.
Yep, if there are insufficient wages in the calendar year of 2019 to collect regular unemployment, and they are unemployed right now due to COVID, they can file for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program as soon as we have it in our WIUI system. We're still programming that, as Lori had mentioned. We're trying to get it in there as fast as we
Amy, I think we kind of lost you there. But yes, just to finish up what Amy was saying, we're trying to get that programmed as quickly as we can, and we will update wyomingworkforce.org and put a notice on there when when that pandemic unemployment assistance is available. So if you're an independent contractor, well, you need to have proof of a job search and a resume on the website.
Ty, can you hear us?
I can now, yes.
Awesome. Okay, this is Amy again. As far as the PUA program goes, which is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, that's the program I think the independent contractors and self-employed would be applying for. And at this point in time, the registration on Wyoming at Work and Seeking Work, those requirements have both been waived.
Great. What if you're job attached, but your employer is not able to rehire you at the end of the 12 weeks?
That will depend on if the reason is related to COVID and which program the individual is on. Because for regular unemployment, there's only 12 weeks of job attachment or union attachment. With the PUA program, that requirement is waived. With the extension, the pandemic extension, the requirement is there to be registered and seeking work. Again, if it's related to COVID, there may be some leniency. We will have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
All right. So if we're already receiving UI, when will the $600 a week payment for back pay to March 29th be issued?
We started issuing those payments as of last Friday. So for individuals that were eligible to receive those weeks of unemployment, and if they were already paid out, that $600 should be available to them at this point. They need to go and check their direct deposits. They need to look at their debit card. However they are being paid for unemployment, they can go and look at that. They can also see on their their unemployment account, wiui.wio.gov. If they log in, they can see that that money has been paid to them.
All right. Should we continue to file weekly online if benefits have exhausted for the additional 13 weeks? And do individuals who qualify for CARE Act qualify for the extra $600 for the additional 13 weeks?
So the $600 is available on top of any program all the way through July 25th. So if they file for the extension, that will be on top of the extension. At this point in time, if benefits have exhausted on the program that you are currently receiving, I would recommend waiting to file those continued claims until the other program is actually in effect. We are not sure how that will affect our programming if the weeks are already out there.
And again, we'll post that when that program is available on wyomingworkforce.org. If I'm told there are only 2 days of work this week and not any work next week, but beyond that, I will be told on a weekly basis, can I file for UI? Can I also file for the federal COVID-19 aid?
Absolutely. Because we are looking at eligibility on a weekly basis, you're more than welcome to file for unemployment as soon as your hours have been reduced or you have been laid off. And then every week you're going to certify and let us know how much you're actually earning during that week.
Excellent. So this person says, I've only worked for 3 weeks and then was furloughed. Do I qualify for unemployment?
You may qualify for one of the programs. Again, we're going to look at any wages that were earned in the calendar year of 2019. And if there are enough wages in that time frame for regular unemployment and you don't have another claim already out there that's exhausted benefits, we would go that route. If not, we would see if you're eligible for the pandemic unemployment or the extension. So yes, go ahead and apply.
Thank you. So if you were let go from a job as a contractor due to COVID-19, do they need to verify that that's the reason?
Yes, we will need as much information as possible. We will be reaching out to employers on each one of these claims to verify separation information. And if you have any documentation from the company that you are going to work for as a contractor, we will need you to provide that as well to let us know that, you know, the job fell through.
All right. So this person says, I was laid off due to COVID-19. My employer called yesterday and said they were planning to reopen in 2 weeks, but I was offered way less money to come back, about a 25% salary cut. Can I still claim for the weeks that I go back and still get some of the $600 to make up for the difference in pay from the CARES Act to get closer to my usual salary until the job is up and running enough to pay my full salary?
For any refusal of work, we will have to investigate the reasoning behind it to see if it is allowable or not. If the employer has work available, it's the same type of work that they were doing. You know, you can work part-time and still file for unemployment and report that on your weekly certification. But there is a potential for being disqualified if you do refuse work. Again, we have to look at all of the specifics for each individual case.
Thank you. So my hours got reduced due to COVID-19 and I am receiving UI benefits, but this week my employer sold his business to another company, but the new company had no position or work for me. What do I do now?
So if the new company does not have any work and your old company was sold, that's being laid off, you can file for unemployment, and if you already have a claim going, just let us know that that happened on your weekly certification.
And just to clarify on that, that would probably mean that you'd have to do the work search requirement because you would no longer be job attached, correct?
You're right. With that previous employer, that job attachment would be gone.
Right. So I'm a park ranger at Yellowstone National Park. This would have been my third season in the park in this capacity. My paperwork has been started and background checks in progress when I was informed that they'd canceled the season. It's the only income I have and draw upon unemployment every year. My question is, how can I continue to receive benefits because mine will run out next week until I'm able to secure full-time employment?
So if you're already on unemployment and you are running out of the dollars that are left in your unemployment account, you could potentially be eligible for the pandemic unemployment assistance or the pandemic extension. So get a hold of us as soon as your money has run out, and we will see which program you qualify for.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions still to go. We only have about 3 minutes left, but please, if we don't answer your question live on this broadcast, please know that we will go back and try to answer all those questions and send those questions to you. Got time for a couple more questions here. I'm a sole practitioner massage therapist and have been shut down since March 29th. I need to know when and if I can apply for unemployment.
So this is another case of self-employment, and that would fall under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. As soon as that is up and running, you can go ahead and apply for that. And there's a potential for that program to go back to when your last day of work was.
Excellent. What do you believe are the 3 best, most essential pieces of advice that every claimant should know and fully comprehend?
This is Lori. One of the things we're finding is that people that are filing for their initial claim for unemployment think that they're done once they've done that first step. People need to know that you have to file for that continued claim for payment every week. You have to sign into your WIUI account and sign in and answer those questions about the previous week. A lot of people are not aware that they've got to sign in every week and answer those questions. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would say you need to monitor your emails or your mailbox, whichever your preferred contact is, for any kind of correspondence that we send your way. If we are requesting some kind of information from you, most of that request is very time sensitive and it will have an effect on your claim. You need to stay on top of any kind of correspondence sent your way. Number 3, I think one thing that really needs to be pushed is the fact that if you are being paid by your employer and you are not working, you must report those earnings for that previous week. If that is the scenario, you want to answer yes to number 1, as if you were working on your continued claim. The other thing along with that, if you do work and you only work 2 hours or whatever it is, you definitely have to report honestly. Report how many hours you worked that week and take your rate of pay times the number of hours worked, and that's what you report for your gross earnings. We don't want to have anybody run into the possibility of committing fraud by not reporting your earnings, of going into overpayment and now owing us back because you were paid in error. I think that's the three most important things as far as I can tell.
All right, we got one more question here, and then we're going to have to turn it off. But again, we're going to try to answer all these questions and get them emailed out to you guys. So the last question is, if we ourselves have had to work fewer hours to homeschool our children, can we draw unemployment?
Yes, there is a potential that they will be eligible for unemployment. With the COVID requirements, the federal government knows that students are having to stay home, that schools are closed, that parents are having to take care of their small children. And if it's COVID related, that plays into what we look at to determine if you're meeting the eligibility requirements. So just communicate everything to us, be open, honest, and upfront, and we are going to look at that on an individual and a weekly basis.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys all for your time. Thank you folks for tuning in and asking your questions and learning about how this all works. Hopefully it'll make any applications run smoother for you. And we are working really hard to get the PUA and the PEUC benefits available. The folks in UI are working on the programming to get that going. Keep checking wyomingworkforce.org for any information about that. And as soon as those programs are available, we'll put a message up on there and let you know that you can begin applying for those. They're working hard to get those to you soon. Also, check the wyomingworkforce.org for a recording of this presentation and all the questions, including the ones we did not get to, and the answers to those. And then we will also email those and the PowerPoints to you. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck to you all, and thank you for tuning in.